Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hi guys, how are you? Hello.
Hello. Hello, folks. Today we're talking about a special topic that Michelle Stitches, one of our regular people, wanted us to discuss. And she came up with the idea, and the topic is, when did you start drinking beer? And I thought that was interesting. So we're not examining a beer tonight, but we're examining the idea of when did you start drinking. So let's see. We have Beer Cup and Michelle from Wyoming out west. Paul called me in Texas, from Texas, and said he probably wasn't going to be able to make it for whatever reason. He couldn't find third shift. He thought third shift was tonight. And I said, Paul.
Oh.
I said, there's going to be a lot of people going to have trouble finding third shift.
Yep.
But it's only for it's 2 weeks from now. And I told him that Budweiser Select would be next week, and he thought he could find that. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll go across to everybody, and then we'll go back the second time, you can show us what you're drinking. So we have from the South, myself, Louisiana Beer Reviews, Ronald, or Jay. We have from Alabama, John. We have from the North, John and Charles. Oh, I'm sorry, Keone's from the West. Excuse me. Keone's from the West, and he used to be from the really far West, Hawaii. So sorry about that, Keone. And then
That's so far west it could be east.
almost. And then we have John and Charles from up north in Indiana, and Patrick from up north in the Mid-Atlantic from Pennsylvania, and Eric from Massachusetts.
Hello. Hello, hi.
All right, so Beer Cub and Michelle, you have not been able to access the Beer and Me, have you?
No, we have not.
So weird because I'm on that site every day doing something on it. And then Hey Duke started doing reviews again on there, and it's a shame that y'all can't get on. But anyway, that's another subject. What are y'all drinking tonight? And tell us, when did you start drinking beer, especially since Michelle came up with the idea.
Yeah. I'm having a New Belgium Portage, which is a porter.
New Belgium Portage.
And
Hold on a second. Eric, control the volume situation if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I'm having Red Hook's Audible Ale. It's pretty decent, easy drinking beer.
Yeah, you know, when I first tried the Red Hook Audible, I didn't like it. I thought it was too dull. But then as I drank it more and more, I started to really discover a lot of flavors that I was missing. And that was the Dan Patrick beer, right?
Right, right.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of grows on you.
It really did. And then I was sorry it was going down. Michelle, you said the Portage. That's from New Belgium, huh?
Right, right.
New Belgium.
And I'm knitting, so if I move weird or something, that's why this is below the screen.
Hey, well, you know, Yoko Ono knitted on TV, so.
I have restless hands syndrome. I can't sit still.
That's okay. And
going.
New Belgium, I like a lot of their beers. And another thing about New Belgium is that if you look on their website under their Abbey Ale, they've got my video featured. So, shameless promotion there. All right. So go ahead and tell us, when did you all start drinking beer?
Well, I thought of the idea only because, in a way, I thought my story was unusual, only because I've never really met anybody else who was the same way. Yet, from some of the comments you made last week, I'm thinking it's not so uncommon. I just haven't run into others. And that is in that...
I'm going to put my beer up so it doesn't get warm. Keep talking.
Okay. That is that I always liked beer, and I can remember my parents drinking like Schlitz or PBR, and I'm just a little toddler going for my dad's beer can, and you know, they'd let me have a little sip and go, oh, isn't that cute? But then they would have to pry it from my little fingers because I liked it. And so, you know, as a teenager, when you're hanging out with your buds, illegally drinking, and they're all, you know, going, oh man, that's so good, and you can tell they're just trying so hard to be cool and pretend like they enjoyed something they didn't really. I never not liked beer, never ever, from as long as I can remember. I always liked beer, and so I knew so many people who had to acquire the taste or learn to like beer. And so I thought it was just kind of interesting, and I wondered how other people, since it was something I always liked, how did other people get into drinking beer? So that's just, that's me from a little kid.
Wow, that's cool.
Not that I drank a lot as a little kid or anything. I'm just saying I always liked the taste of it. It was never. So.
Yeah, I wish my father was still in the beer drinking thing, but he says this. He makes these kind of statements. He says, all babies love beer. That's what he said. If he was on here, he would say that all babies love beer and all dogs love beer. That's what he would say. Okay. And I say, you believe that? It's true. Okay. Beer Cub.
Yeah, for me, I don't really remember having it as a little kid the way she did. First time I remember having it's more in my teens, and I don't remember ever not liking beer from the time I tried it. And I've always been open to exploring different beers. I think the only thing different for me is for a while after we first got married, started having kids and all that, we didn't drink at all, and then when I started back, by then, this was mid-'90s, the craft beers were really starting to come in. And so we went through a couple of years of becoming a beer policeman and telling other people, they were idiots if they didn't drink the right beers or whatever. And thankfully, I got over that. So that's the good news, is if you know people like that, they can recover from that. So,
we're recovering beer snobs.
That's funny. And Keone, you start telling us. I got to get up again because I want to go get 2 beers and to show as I tell my story. But Keone, tell us, you're about 45 years old, right, Keone?
No. No, I'm only 45.
I'm just joking. Not quite 45, Keone.
Yeah, I'm drinking Coors right now, but I guess you could say the first beer I ever tried was when I was 8 years old. I was at a party with my mom and my grandfather, and there was no more water bottles. I guess everybody drank it all, because I guess when you're drinking liquor, you need to stay hydrated as well. And I kept on telling my mom, it was like 9 o'clock at night, I kept on telling her, we need to go home, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm thirsty. And then when she opened up her next Budweiser and she went to go do something, I was like, you know what, screw this. I grabbed her Budweiser and I drank like almost half the can.
Did you get in trouble?
That was the first beer I ever had.
Did you get into trouble?
Oh no, my mom's like, she caught me and she's like, oh, nah, you'll be all right. It's like you might feel a little lightheaded, but besides that, you should be fine.
So you were 8.
Yeah.
And you drink regularly since 8 years old, like?
No, I didn't start like drinking on a casual basis until I was about like 16, when all my friends were starting to drink and stuff.
16? Oh, you must have lived in Denmark. Where it's
Twice close enough.
Germany.
We mainly drank Mickey's Ice and Steel Reserve. That was the big thing back then.
Wow. Ouch. Woo.
What year was that? Like, just for curiosity's sake.
That was like 2006.
Yeah. Back in the Mickey's Ice days. You can't get here. Oh, I did see Mickey's for $3.99 a 6-pack yesterday, though.
Pretty good deal.
Pretty good deal. Let's see, any more Western people? Okay, well, we'll do the South now. I'm from the South. I'm from Louisiana, and I started drinking beer when I was like a year old. And I remember we would have party. They'd always have like a barbecue or a crawfish boil or something, always. So usually on Sundays. So they would drink. I remember in those days, like 1969, 70, 71, they would drink the 7-ounce bottles of Miller High Life. You remember those? Very popular. Y'all can hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And they would drink Schlitz, of course. But I remember, and Schlitz used to be in those kind of squat 12-ounce bottles. They weren't long necks. They were like I call them mid-necks or something. They were weird, you know, but I have one similar to that up there.
Like a
But
red stripe bottle, right?
huh?
It's like a red stripe bottle.
No, those are called squat bottles.
Oh.
If you look at you can see old Schlitz bottles that I'm talking about on the Led Zeppelin album "In Through the Outdoor" from 1979.
Ooh.
But they have Schlitz on there. But in the old style bottles. But they would drink that out the bottle, and I would say, "Give me a sip, you know," and then they would let me have a sip. And oh, it was so good. You know, it'd be hot outside because it's usually hot around here, and it was so good. I just remember it was so good. And then I'd say, "Give me another sip," and they would just like let you have sips the whole time. And then you'd be out there playing, and then you go get another sip. So, or it could be Dixie beer too. Is another one they would drink back then from Louisiana. And John and Charles, y'all tried Dixie, right?
Chuck's drinking one right now.
How do you like it, Charles?
I'd say he likes it, Mikey.
Pretty tasty.
He likes it. He likes it.
John, you liked Dixie, did you not?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, most people haven't tried that unless they live around here. But
Good maltiness.
yeah, so that was really popular. It's still fairly popular, but it was like really popular 40 years ago until they had some production problems. But so I would drink that, and it was so good. Now that died out, and I got into this soft drinking, you know, kids drinking Coke and Dr. Pepper and all that, or Royal Crown Cola. And I remember around, I know it was 1986 in the summer. You could drink at 18 years old back then. So my father had some Miller Lite in the fridge, and this was when the light beer had come into play so big, right, in the mid-'80s. So I told my friends, let's drink. And they were only 17, but, you just knew you weren't going to get in trouble. So we all took cans out, and then I drank some of that Miller Lite, and I was thinking to myself, ugh, this tastes bad. You know, it tasted so bad, and couldn't even finish the can. I was like, ugh. And I don't remember any of them finishing it either. So that was our party beer drinking that night. And that was in 86. And for 10 years, from 86 to 96, I never drank again. And in my mind, beer tasted like that. It was just so thin and, it had, frankly, a bad taste. And
What did you drink in that 10-year period after that, then?
Oh, like soft drinks.
I mean, nothing like mixed drinks or cocktails or anything?
No. And then around 1993 or 94, we started drinking a little bit of wine. Me and this lady, I'm not going to get into all that. But anyway, we liked it. You know, we both liked it. But then, I remember this. It was February 1996, and for whatever reason, I was 27 years old, so for whatever reason, I was in my house thinking one day, I was like, man, why do people drink beer all the time? I was like, what's the big deal? It's like they're always showing these commercials on TV, and so, like I started thinking about when I was a little kid, and it would taste so good. So I was like, let me experiment. So I went to Winn-Dixie grocery store, and I bought a 6-pack of the Miller High Life, 7 ounces. And I twisted the cap, and I drank one on the back porch, and I was like, man, this is pretty good. This is like what I remember. So then I said, I think what I'll do is I'll try every beer. I'll just try every beer that's out there, and I'll see what I think.
Original beer reviewer.
Yeah, I always did like to do like little projects. So I said, this will be the next project. So that's what I've been doing for 19 years. And like Michelle Stitches and Beer Cup were saying, I was sort of like a little beer, because I would tell people, oh, don't drink Miller Lite, that stuff's terrible. And, well, that's what a lot of my family would drink. And they would get mad and say, well, don't tell us what to drink. And I'd say, why don't you try some full-bodied beer? And I'm not saying I was trying to get them to drink Guinness. I was just trying to get them to drink like regular Miller High Life or Budweiser or and then they would say, oh, we don't want to drink that, you know, like. And then finally I gave up about 12 years ago, and then I realized, you know, you're just being a jerk. You know, it's like they don't want to drink it. They like Miller Lite. Why do you have to insist that they not drink it? And I wasn't trying to get them to never drink it. Really, what I was trying to get them to do was try new things. But they would never try new things, and they would always like ridicule me if I would bring Schlitz. I would bring Schlitz to the party, and my daddy's sister would say, "Why are you bringing that? Oh, you're just bringing that because you know nobody else is going to drink it, and you can drink it all yourself." I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I'm just trying to bring something so everybody could try something different." No, but they would never do it. They'd never. Falstaff, they would never drink it. No. So, but one more thing, and then I'll turn it over to somebody else. When I first started drinking in '96, February, I was grabbing everything, right? Like I said, so like one of the first things I grabbed was this. Rick and Jack's.
Never heard of it.
Rick and Jack's American Ale, American Blonde Ale. Yeah, from Louisiana. This company went out of business. It was made by two guys, Rick and Jack. So it was Rick and Jack. And then
Never heard of it.
You
Never heard of American Jacks. Never heard of that.
And then another one I bought was Rick and Jack's Old Hardhead Scottish style ale.
Ooh.
And I remember thinking, man, this stuff is so good. It was so good, you know.
Wow.
And this is in '96, like literally the month I started drinking. So I was not just drinking the cheap beer or whatever. I was drinking everything. And so people ask me sometimes, like, when did you get into craft beer? I said, the month I started drinking.
That was about the turn of the craft beer revolution. Was like, what, about 94, 95, something like that?
Now remember it crashed. Remember there was a crash in '96, and a lot of the companies went out of business like this one, and then it kind of had to rebuild. There was an initial overproduction in the early '90s, and then it collapsed, and then it built back up. But this is a cool bottle because it says starting gravity, final gravity, and it even gives you the finishing hops, Golden's hops.
You know, we had a big...
So my experience with beer drinking was always just a long march through the beer brands, craft as well as regular. So I was never part of that, which team are you on? I was not on a team. I was only on the beer drinking team.
All right.
Yeah, I'm serious. So it used to like bother me when people would say, why are you drinking Schlitz? No, blah, blah. I would say, well, to me it's good, you know. All right, or whatever, you know. And so, you know that we know about that big civil war that goes on in the beer world, right?
It is a big civil war.
And there's jerks on both sides, of course. All right, enough of me rambling on, but that is when I started. It's 19 years. I'll be glad when the 20th anniversary comes, but I don't know what I'm going to do about it. All right, now John from Alabama.
I started drinking back in 1992. I was 16 years old. Of course, my parents being from Haiti, and we lived, most of my immediate family is still in New Jersey. We would always have these functions on the weekend, a certain party we were having, and, I snuck downstairs where they kept all the beer, and I grabbed a little beer for myself and put it in my pocket. Well, one, but two beers, exactly. Me and my younger brother, Whitney, and some of our friends. So, there's a lot of people around the house. Nobody knew what was going on. So it was a Heineken. And I opened it, drank it for the first time, and he drank his, and we were like, wow. And then the next morning we had a big hangover. So, but that was our first time. And our fathers and my dad and my mom, we've over the years maybe just a little bit of the residue, not much. Maybe say they might be maybe just a little bit when we were kids. They would say, where they pretty much were done with the beer. They would give us a little sip. But for us to finally, our first beer that we had, that was sort of our first. And, of course, Heineken to Lowenbrown to, Guinness. I would say that has been a very popular one that most of us in the Caribbean community would tend to buy, and then when Red Stripe came back in the scene, we would buy that. So, but that I would say that was my first time, and then me finally buying my beer was back in 1997, obviously 21, and bought my first 6-pack of Ballantine Ale, That was my first six-pack I bought. Exactly. And
Pretty cool.
I enjoyed it very much.
Good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you drinking Mickey's tonight?
I had a Mickey's, and I just I'm about to get my Busch Signature Copper Lager, which I bought yesterday, and I'm about to have that. So, but getting back to what you were saying, Jay, you know, I'm one of those guys, with terms of trying different beers. You know, my family tries different things. You know, from the Heinekens to the Guinness to the Red Stripes, Coronas. You know, of course, the traditional Buds and whatever. You know, we like. You know, they like different things, and that's kind of how I am. You know, I'll buy a Bud Light for someone, but I'm not going to drink it all the time. You know, I like Mickey's. I like Coors Banquet. You know, give me a Bud, give me a Corona, Busch, whatever it is. I'll bring something. You know, and I'm not one of those just all in this one mindset of just drinking one thing and buying one thing and that's it. Like in my area here. Go ahead.
Like most beer drinkers are like really loyal to a brand, huh? Or at least the old time, like the old time beer drinkers, right? They would only, like in my family, they will only drink Miller Lite or only Coors Light. You know what I mean? Like they have their loyalties.
Right here,
A lot
We
of
had-
old heads have one brand and that's it.
Yeah,
We had a neighbor. He said he drinks two kinds of beer, Budweiser and Free.
Oh, I forgot to say what I was drinking tonight. I'm drinking Budweiser.
I like that, Michelle. That was funny. That was funny.
Nice glass.
I'm drinking Budweiser. That's funny, Michelle. I used to go out with this lady, and she said she had an uncle who died, but he used to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon out of the bottles, and he would keep them in a shed outside, just in the heat. He would drink them hot. I said, that is very bizarre, you know.
That's crazy. That is
That's
crazy.
a man.
He was eccentric, okay? But that was really bizarre. But anyway, so, Jean, you started drinking regularly after 16?
About once, maybe here and there, after that first beer, here and there we'll have a little bit here. We would know somebody who will hook us up with something back in Jersey, But, finally of legal age, 97, I turned 21, I said, all right, let's, and like I said, my first six-pack was Ballantine Ale. And so,
I remember.
And I enjoyed it, and since then, a little bit this is like, it's good to have different tastes, different variety, different interests, it's good. You just can't just stick to one thing.
I don't think you should, but some people do. I remember when I turned 18, I was like my father said, go to the store and buy me this Coors Light. Then I had to go buy beer all the time, right? So, but I can remember walking in Winn-Dixie, and I thought I was Mr. Cool, because I got those 2 suitcases of Coors Light, and it was on my birthday, and the girl says, you got your ID? And I was like, yeah. And I showed it, and she was like, oh, happy birthday. I said, thank you. And it's funny because I was like Mr. Big Shot buying the beer, and I didn't even drink it. I just was bringing it home. But I was just thinking, yeah, I'm 18. You got it.
My first time buying craft beer was I was in a one of these, when the popularity of it came about was in 1999-2000, was this place up in New Brunswick. It was they had a brewery inside there, and I went inside. Bought. It was up in Manhattan, I should say. It was somewhere near Times Square. I was about to go to a Mets game, and I stopped at the spot, and it was a place that was this little brewery. I think it was Manhattan Brewery, somewhere near Times Square, and I had my first craft beer, and I liked it. So
y'all were taking that number 7 train east to Flushing?
Yes, number 7 train heading to the Shea Stadium. Yes, it was Times Square. Yep, and heading to Grand Central, make the transfer to the number 7 train.
That's that purple train, huh? Purple.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know. All right.
All right, I know. All right, now going from in the north, we'll go west to east. Charles and John, I'm going to get the rest of my Budweiser.
Go ahead, Charles.
So first beer would be probably around the age of 8 or 9 years old at family picnics where they're all playing cards, hanging out under the table, stealing sips. And then I turned 16 years old, and then of course I was fortunate to have an older brother who had older friends. You got into the old Milwaukee, followed by my fraternity days in college, which it didn't matter what kind of beer it was, you just drank it. To I was at a place here local, which is now part of the New Albanian Brewery, and the guy who was working that day is one of the owners of the place, and a friend of mine and I were sitting there throwing darts, and we're drinking Miller Lite, and he said, "You guys want to try a real Pilsner?" And he gave us some Pilsner Kel, and that's where my taste buds changed from that day forward. But like like Jay said earlier, I'm with the good and I'm with the evil. I don't discriminate in beer. If it tastes good, I drink it, and that's kind of the evolution of my drinking, which was a lot of drinking when I was 20 and 21.
So y'all used to do like major volume drinking?
Hell, we still do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on Instagram, right? Hell yeah.
but you know what's great about
Is there another way to do it? I don't know.
our volume drinking means, I just have to walk 5 doors down. So do it here.
I didn't say anything about alcoholism. I just said major volume. I like to use very careful terms like people will say that to me and I say, no, I'm a hobbyist. So don't use those uncomfortable terms around me. I don't like those kind of words. So Charles, what are you drinking right now?
I've got the Dixie,
Oh, you still drinking that one Dixie?
and I'm actually double-fisted.
Oh, no, I'm not going there.
Oh, Bud Light. Well, you'll be banned from a lot of different.
It's a good, clean taste. If it's a hot day or just any day, it's good beer to kick back and drink. I mean,
Does that mean you're ready for anything?
yeah, I'm pretty much ready for anything. I mean, the great thing about the evil is,
Whoa!
it's you can kill these things and you're not going to taste the hops the next morning.
Yeah.
I'm a big IPA guy. I like IPAs too. So.
You know what's so funny about Bud Light? And I don't really ever drink it, but unless I'm working bingo sometimes. But people will say, I think that we had this discussion on Facebook the other day. Somebody was saying, oh, well, nobody likes Bud Light. I said nobody likes it, but
Seriously?
I said it's the most popular beer in the world.
I had a conversation about this recently myself because I never really drank Bud Light. None of my friends really do. A lot of people in my circles don't really. And I said, like, as much as they're selling, who is drinking all this? So I started asking a couple friends at work who bartend and stuff like that, and I said, do you really sell that much Bud Light, or is it maybe just not in our region or whatever? And he goes, young kids, like the 20-somethings, so like that's all they drink.
Not this guy.
Hey, let me tell you this. I'm almost 50. Bud Light. But let me tell you this though. Okay.
Tell your story.
I'll tell my story here in a second. Let me tell you this. The convenience stores sell this stuff for almost nothing here in Southern Indiana. You can buy a case of 16-ounce tall boys for like $17. They sell them by the freaking crate loads.
Damn.
Look, John,
Yes.
you got people that live next door to me. They're working on that house that you probably heard I'm working on the house in my video.
Yeah.
And they said, look, when they drink Bud Light, that's all they drink.
Yeah.
You're not one of these people that go around telling everybody what they need to drink, and they don't really frankly care what you drink. And
Yeah.
sometimes
What they like.
sometimes I'll let them try some exotic beer, and they'll humor me and say it's good, but I can tell they don't really like it. But anyway, so but if you went over there and told them they were stupid for drinking Bud Light, you would get beat up. I mean, or you but they would try to fight with you at least. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you're not going to go tell them they're stupid for drinking Bud Light. And this guy that owns the store, or the manager of the store where I buy a lot of beer, we were talking about craft beer, and he was saying, well, he said, we have a lot of craft beer. You've seen Mathern's, right? It's like full of craft beer. In fact, it's probably got the best craft beer selection in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. But I said, do you make a lot of money off of craft beer? He said, no. We don't really make too much money off of it, but we have to keep it in the store because it's like you got to be in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said they sell so much Bud Light in a weekend that is unbelievable. Like this Memorial Day weekend coming up, he said they will sell more Bud Light in a weekend than they will sell craft beer for a month. Easily.
Well, see, that's the thing, because Jay, you know, people's money, you know, they're looking at the budget. They know that, you know, they got to spend on food and this and that. That hey, I'm not buying craft beer. Let me get, you know, the inexpensive, you know, or reasonable light beer or whatever, or you know, regular beer, Bud or Bud Light or natural or naturalized, whatever it is, as long as it doesn't break the bank, and I'm good.
They don't know they don't like it. They just keep buying it every week, and everything. They don't.
But, you know, I had people tell me that. They said, well, they don't really like it. I said, you going to sit there and tell me these people drink it and they don't like it? I mean, for real, man, that is ridiculous. So, like, they have a crawfish boil and they eat crawfish, but they don't like the crawfish? I mean, that's so... let's not get into all that. But, I mean, that kind of stuff just bothers me to no end when you say that.
It's nonsense.
Yeah, it's nonsense, like you're saying. Well, anyway, but the guy said the big money is in the Bud Light and the natural light. That's the big money. But now, John, you're going to tell us when you started drinking.
Well, I guess I'm kind of like everybody else. I kind of started as a young kid, you know. My mom and dad, you know, their good friend owned a Falls City distributorship. And, so we always had plenty of Falls City. You know, they had friends that owned bars, and you know, if you wanted, because you can't buy beer on Sunday in Indiana unless you go to a restaurant or something.
Oh Lord.
You know, if you want a beer on a Sunday, you know, they'd go up there and get beer, and then you know, one thing led to the other. Like Miss Beer Cub, you know, you kind of really never lost the taste of a great thing. You know, so. And then, you know, as high school kids, we drank a lot of Wiedemann, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Got a can right there.
and Little Kings.
Yep.
And then kind of started growing into, you know, more things, and you know, your Slits and your Strohs and other things. And then I guess, like everybody else in the '90s, we started that little craft beer movement. I lived in Salem, Indiana at the time, and we opened up a little brewery there in the mid-'90s. I actually still got one bottle left. My grandma bought me back in the mid-'90s. It was, I don't know if you can see it. It's called Tucker Brewing Company. They lasted about maybe a couple years, and that was about it. That was like Jay was telling. In '96 was the decline of the craft beer movement.
The first one in Southern Indiana.
Yeah, they was. The first one started in Indiana. And then, you know, 96, it started to decline a little bit. And then I guess, you know, when I hit 21, I guess in 91, 92, I guess hit 21. We used to drive to Louisville and get them exotic beers in a case called Beers Around the World. When you really started getting into your IPAs and, you know, your bigger beers like that. But yeah, we've gone nonstop since mid-'80s, I guess. And we're still going strong. We're still alive. We're still upright. So probably, I'm gonna say probably 2,300 different craft beers. And
good grief.
We drank enough Bud Light and Miller Lite to sponsor 2 NASCARs. And
What are you drinking right now?
Huh?
What are you drinking right now?
I just got through from a Dogfish Head Tequila Ale.
Oh.
Seasonal ale. And we're going to finish up with a big old 16 ounce of Bud Light.
Okay.
Well, we roll like that. We can drink those beers that pretty rare and switch over to a Miller Lite or Bud Light. We're not beer snobs. We don't want to be. We're just beer people.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, now
It's good line.
Yeah.
We're not beer snobs. We're beer people. I like when y'all were down in New Orleans. I noticed you were drinking a lot of Coors Light.
Yeah.
And they had that cheap at that one store. You know that store on Royal Street. They had all those beers for $1.
Is that that one I thought we was going to die in?
Let's go.
Oh yeah, the man was going crazy in the store talking about how he was going to stab the owner, and
What?
he didn't care if he went to prison. He was going.
Pretty intense.
Hey Jay, we stayed at a few years ago. We stayed at that Wyndham, which was right across the street, And I couldn't tell you how many tent trips we made to the big ice bins because it was so cheap.
Yeah, you can buy those 24-ounce cans for $1.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
Or
You know,
6-ounce cans.
I could.
What now?
And I'll say this, and I'll move on and let somebody else talk. But it's hard to fathom. You know, we're talking about Bud Light, Bud, Miller Lite, and different beers like that. But you get down there to like the Bourbon Street, and you walk down that next day, and it's like truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of Bud Light, Bud, Miller Lite stuff, restocking what people bought the night before. I mean, it's just amazing how much beer. I mean, I don't like using that term adjunct lager. I think it's a crap term. But, you know, regular beer that people bought that night. They had to, I mean, just trailer after trailer after trailer refurnishing these bars and these little hole in the walls with more beer.
And that's their big money makers, John Charles. That's their big money makers. The Bud Lights, the Miller Lights, the Coors Lights, and say what you will, but that's where the money is.
Oh, so you see y'all were walking down. Y'all would go down Bourbon Street like in the early morning.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of dead. And you saw all the beer trucks and
early afternoon.
And you had your beer trucks, and they were bringing in like major amounts of Bud Light and Budweiser and Miller Light and all that.
Yeah, Coors Light, yeah.
Oh yeah.
We stayed up that early. Stayed out too late.
Yeah, I didn't stay out too late on Bourbon Street.
Maybe just walking home.
Yeah, we stayed out late.
The problem is leaving Bourbon Street early and hitting the bars, the other areas on the way home.
If you've never been to the French Quarter, well, anyway, now on to Patrick. What
Good evening, ladies and gents.
Yo!
This evening I'm drinking Keystone Light on tap.
All right.
On tap?
I figured I'd go with something fancy.
Wait a minute. You're drinking a draft version of it?
Yes.
Patrick told me the story about that. I think I remember, and I said, okay, good move.
Wow.
It was $54 for a half barrel of Keystone Light. I mean, how do you turn that down?
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's amazing, really.
I'm gonna have to go.
Sold.
I'm gonna have to go trade in a keg this week. Get me one.
How is it on draft? Pretty good.
I swear, we've had this conversation maybe before, but Keystone Light is Coors Light. It's just a cheaper price. I can't tell the difference between the two. And I dare almost anybody to be able to tell the difference. They're exactly the same beer. I'll never buy Coors Light really again unless I'm at a restaurant or a bar somewhere because I can't tell the difference. So why would I pay a higher price for it?
Yeah, you could fool a lot of dedicated Coors Light drinkers by substituting Keystone Light in their glass, couldn't you?
Absolutely, especially on draft. I had a party here 2 weeks ago, and nobody knew the difference.
That's funny. That is so funny. That's the argument I used to make back in the 90s when I was harassing my family. I would tell them, I would say, like, why do you buy Coors Light when you could go buy Keystone Light? You know, I would use that argument. It's half, a third of the price less. Oh, I ain't drinking that garbage. So,
I just don't buy it because it's cheaper. I buy it because I enjoy it exactly the same as if I paid, more for it. I just enjoy not spending as much for it.
Yeah, it makes sense, don't it? Well, tell us your drinking story.
My earliest beer experience memory is my first Holy Communion, which would have been May 7th, 1983. I remember being at my own First Communion party and being so excited they let me be the bartender and pump the keg and pour the beers for everybody. Every so often I would sneak one for myself. So that's my first earliest beer drinking memory.
And what beer were y'all drinking?
God knows. It was probably Miller High Life if I know my family, but that would be my best guess.
Now, do Catholic people drink a lot? Is that like a...
No, just Irish, but no comment on that.
Jay, yes, we do. My parents being from Haiti, yes.
I'm Irish.
Haitian, they do drink. From beer to whiskey, wine, whatever it is, yes.
I'm just kidding because I grew up in Louisiana, which is so full of Catholics, and drinking is like almost like you're.
Philadelphia is a hugely Catholic town too.
What is Philadelphia?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so is Chicago and New York. Well, Haiti, yeah, that's like an all Catholic country. Unless you're voodoo, but we're not going to talk about that. I'll probably be murdered now. But
my next
the Tauntaun Makutsu
beer memory I have
right
is probably years later. I was in about 6th grade, and I went to a family party with a friend of mine at the time, and we snuck and stole beers out of the cooler at the party. And we each stole about 2 or 3 beers and walked around and drank those and got tipsy. I thought, like, wow, this is great.
And you drank regularly after that, or like when did you start?
No, that was just like getting away with it when you could. But I really remember start becoming a beer drinker, say, when I got into high school.
Oh, high school.
Got to high school. And I was probably late to the party for a lot of the kids that I grew up with. They were already probably hanging in the Friday night, Saturday night, having drinking a 40, splitting amongst their friends and stuff like that. So I mean, we used to go and get 6-packs or 40s in a different neighborhood with guys that I hung out with, and we'd hang down by the railroad tracks and drink beers and act stupid, and then stumble home later on.
Man, I remember back in the mid-'80s, like 1984 to 86, it was like a big deal in high school. Well, John and them were talking about Bourbon Street, but I can remember this. People think Bourbon Street is just all tourists, but no. I would bet you on any given night, Bourbon Street is half Louisiana people, because I can remember in high school they would be so excited because they couldn't wait to get out of school on Friday and head to Bourbon Street. They would be there all night. I mean, so these were high school kids. I was like, no way I'm going down there. But I remember other kids that would get into trouble drinking or whatever. It was almost always they would drink Miller. They would almost always drink Milwaukee's Best. The Beast, and because that came out on the market in '84, and I remember everybody would talk about how cheap it was. They would say it tasted terrible, but they would drink it, and that was like super popular. And my only regret is that I did not buy some of it and save some cans for my collection.
My beer drinking started, say, in like 1990. I graduated in high school in '93. So those like 3 years, say, last 3 years of high school.
1990, huh?
I remember mostly drinking Budweiser or Miller High Life or whatever we get our hands on, really. And I remember I was in high school around that time that I first time ever had Mickey's and St. Ides.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, St. Ides. Wow.
That was real big back in the day.
My biggest regret about not drinking young is that I didn't get all the cans and bottles to my collection. You know what I mean? Like, I could have had some awesome Schlitz cans and bottles if I'd have started back in 1982, man.
Oh, God, I wish I had all the cans and bottles I drank back then.
That drives me crazy. Remember those beautiful Budweiser bottles? They used to be kind of like strangely shaped.
But let me throw this out there. You remember Meisterbrau, right? You drank Meisterbrau.
Oh.
I had Meisterbrau at a party, and it was not good. Not good at all.
But remember, I remember when a lot of you guys probably do too, when Ice House first came out. I mean, that was big.
Yeah.
Red Dog first came out. But there was another red beer I'm sitting here trying to think of, and I can't think of it. It was red something.
Red Wolf?
Red Wolf.
Red Wolf. Yes.
Red Wolf. It didn't last, maybe a couple years, and it was done.
I've heard of it.
Who made Red Wolf?
I got a bottle right here.
Didn't Miller make
Anheuser-Busch? Was it Anheuser-Busch or
Miller, I believe?
Man, when we used to go out to Bertha's Mexican restaurant, which is gone now. I would go drinking in '96, I used to get Red Wolf all the time, man.
Yep, that's it right there, Red Wolf.
Who made Red Wolf, Jay?
Anheuser-Busch.
I thought it was Miller, but Miller made
Miller had
Red Dog.
That's right, yeah.
It says right here, Anheuser-Busch, 5.5% alcohol, same as Ice House.
Show it, hey Jay, show that bottle again.
It was a red beer.
Red Wolf. Didn't last long, but hold it up higher.
There you go.
There you go. Didn't last long. A couple years it was done.
That was a good beer. Hey, wasn't that a good beer?
Yeah.
I remember I went to the store. I said, "Let me go get me some Red Wolf," and I was like, "What's going on around here?" It was gone. Same thing with Bud Dry. I used to buy Bud Dry.
Bud Dry was good back in the day.
Yeah.
I have some photos of
Dry.
me drinking Bud Dry.
In 2010, it disappeared and never returned.
I'll tell you what, that was a good beer.
Why? Why ask why?
Right? Why ask why? What was the good? What'd you say?
I said that was a good beer.
Yeah, but it was a strange beer. You know, the thing about Bud Dry, it was 5% alcohol, right?
Yeah.
But with a Bud Light taste.
Yeah. But you know, it was one of those beers that never got a lot of promotion. It was like promoted for just a little while, and it quit. It died out.
Yeah, it was terrible. Well, anyway, I guess we made our point. We started drinking young.
Yes, we did. I made it.
You know what?
Oh, look who's
Hey,
here.
Brandon. What's up, Brandon?
I just got home, so I don't even have a beer open yet.
You know what, today? We've come to the conclusion that we all started young, and we've become hobbyist drinkers.
Well, yeah. I mean, my story. If you care to really hear about this little crappy story, I'm only 20.
Oh yeah, I forgot Eric.
I'm
sorry,
only 27, so I didn't start drinking when I was 1985 because I was not alive in '85.
Oh, wait, Eric. Let me say this. I forgot about you because I drank the 25 ounce of Budweiser and all right. Sorry.
Hey, Eric, I can remember giving $5 for a case of beer in '85.
Good Lord. Any oozle. On that note, I drink tonight the Young's Double Chocolate Stout. Now that beer really, really sticks out in my memory as the first beer that I really, really drank that I was like, I don't want to say hooked on beer, but that kind of really got me interested in beer. And I can tell you because once I turned 21, I immediately started going on Beer Advocate. So I've been on Beer Advocate ever since that time, which was in 2009. So I can tell you this beer was consumed August 23rd, 2009 for the first time. And I'd heard, a lot about that beer. My parents usually had Miller Lite around, and that's pretty much what, I tried when I was 18, 19. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't really leave too much of a lasting impression. My father
You drink what you see.
Exactly, yeah. My father used to drink, he still does. He used to do a lot of IPAs and craft beer and those kind of things, and that got me
Wow.
interested in wanting to try. And he used to brew beer, and my mother's father used to brew beer too. He doesn't do that stuff anymore, but they used to be really into that whole side of things. So they got me more interested in something besides, Miller Lite, stuff like that. So, tried the Guinness, really, really liked the Guinness. I'm wondering, I like Guinness, I like stouts. Kept hearing about this one, might as well try it, and, lo and behold, it's still my #1 favorite beer of all time. And what the Double Chocolate Stout did to me was it told me that beers can not only really have this much flavor to it, but when it says it on the label, it's probably true. So, the labeling was cool to me. The beer had a lot of flavor, so it said to me, if this is what beer is like, I want to explore this called beer. God bless you.
Thank you.
So, ever since 2009, I've been experimenting with a lot of things, and I don't know what everybody else's opinion on, as they're going along in trying beers, but it took me a while to get into things like IPAs and a lot of Belgian beers. It wasn't something that I naturally gravitated towards until maybe I turned 25 or 6 or even 24 when I really started liking IPAs for the first time.
Me
Yeah,
too,
Eric.
Eric. About the same age, about at least in my late 20s and early 30s,
Oh, okay.
into the craft beers.
How old were you all guys when you first got served in a bar?
23.
Nah, 18. I was in New York with my cousin. I was 18 because the drinking age was 18.
23.
21 here.
Now, Eric, I apologize again for
15.
but I blame the Budweiser. But
That's all right.
I do. That's
But
what
I don't have such a historic's not the word. I don't have such a celebrated history with beer, but my history has been, I think it's the same with Jay, where, you know, I had my first really good tasting beer, and it just made me want to explore what the heck else is out there.
Right. So you were like 21 years old, and then they were like, "Oh, try this Young's Double Chocolate Stout," and you were like, "Wow!" And so I'm going to go on this exploration. Now, 6 years later, you're pretty happy that you did the exploration.
Yeah. The cool thing to me, which I think, again, my father barely. I don't even know that he uses the beer advocate anymore, but he was the one that I knew of. That's the only reason I knew of beer advocate, because he was using it a lot, and we get the magazine as well. But you know, right when I turned 21, immediately I went on to beer advocate. So I've been, you know, on beer advocate ever since I turned 21, which is awesome. So what's cool about that is I can see, since I've turned 21, I can see my taste profile progressing year after year after year, which is awesome.
By the time I was 21, I was almost tired of beer.
I never get tired of beer.
But you know, I mean, you
I
said
said
that
almost.
this is what's so amazing to me is, I mean, we've got such a wide age of people on this panel, and you know, everybody's got a different prescription of or description of what they started out with and what they're doing. But you know, I mean, people like me and you and Beer Cub, and I don't know how Brandon is, but you know, I'm almost 50, and you know, I mean, you start out on these beers before Miller Lite, before Bud Light, before all these light beers even come out. He was drinking all these old school beers like Fall City and PBRs and Schlitz and Strohs, and I mean, I guess Pabst Blue Ribbon was probably the first one that come out with what a light beer, wasn't it? Pabst Extra Light, maybe back then, maybe Meister Brau, but I mean,
Turn on the lights.
I'm still that guy. I've not weaned off.
Wasn't Coors the first fine light beer?
Yeah. Huh?
Wasn't that Coors advertising the a fine light beer, the original Coors?
I don't know, but it was Meister Brau that came out with the first one.
Meister Brau was the first light beer that come out, and that was what? That was back. Had to be back in the 70s, wasn't it?
Early, late 60s, mid to late 60s.
60s, yeah.
What were you going to say, though? What was your point?
But, I mean, I've never moved over to that 100% just freaking craft beer yet.
No, I can't do it.
And I won't do it. But yeah. But
I think none of us will be able to do it, guys, to be honest with you.
No.
Now, I want to let Brandon tell us, because he had to work. I mean, some people put their career ahead of doing obscure beer videos, but you know how some people
yeah. What's up with that? Yeah, I really started drinking beer. I mean, you know, I was pretty similar to Jay. Back when we were kids, you know, you just go up to the men who were drinking and just get a sip of their beer. It was usually Budweiser. Of course, I really didn't start drinking beer on my own until 20 years old. I drank a little bit of it, but then until I turned 21, I really started exploring beer more and stuff like that, and it's just gone from there. Usually started with Budweiser, but really moved on from there to Sam Adams and a bunch of other stuff.
So you just, and what year was that?
Age 21. I turned 21 in 2003. That's when I really started exploring beer.
Oh, and that's when the craft beer thing was really coming in force. So you hit it at the right time, really.
Yeah, I did before it got really crazy.
Now, what are you drinking now?
I'm having a Schlitz right now.
Well, you know, the thing about craft beer is that I'm sorry to interrupt you. Craft beer, it sort of jumped the shark because they were the early craft beer days was like making high quality beers that were really good, stouts, porters, IPAs, Russian Imperial Stouts, Pilsners, and then it turned into everything has to be flavored and with a chili pepper in it and made with some man's beard's yeast. And I said to myself, wow, this is really deteriorated so bad. And then every company got to have an IPA and like 4 or 5 IPAs, and they're all kind of not too good. You know, they're kind of pretty horrible. So it's sad the way it deteriorated so much. But you know, you got to expect that when you have a flooded market and you have all these beers chasing a limited audience, what do you think? It's going to collapse, right?
I see it doing like it did back in in the late '90s. I think you're going to see it take a dive because you can only you can go buy 10 IPAs from 10 different breweries, and 9 out of 10 of them is going to taste the same.
Yeah, you're right. And boy, if you say that,
and that's what you're seeing. I think a lot like Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, Three Floyds. A lot of these big breweries that's making mass-produced beers, like Sam Adams, same way. They're making mass-produced beers. Basically, they all taste the same.
Yeah.
And the thing you got to remember too, is the overall volume of beer that is being consumed is going down. So they're slicing that shrinking pie into smaller and smaller slices. So there's going to be a lot of people that fall by the wayside.
But there's going to be a lot of people fall by the wayside because a lot of people's going to quit paying $20-$30 for a bomb or a beer. I mean,
you're right. And you're right. And if you talk about
beers are really cutting into it more than craft beer is, though.
Yeah, if we wanted to be a real popular show tonight, we would be doing mixed drinks, hard liquor, or wine, right? So like
probably scotch.
Yeah, we're talking about a product beer, which is sort of like
pedestrian
in the decline, not the incline.
Right.
Here's a beer that I remember back in 1996. I was trying to get my daddy to try exotic stuff, and it didn't work. But one of the beers I got him to try was this, and he was like, "It's really good, but it's too strong for me." And here it is.
Colt 45 works every time.
But look what it is, though.
Colt 45 beer.
Cold filtered Colt 45 premium beer.
Cold filtered. Ooh.
Oh, I bet you'll never see this in your store.
No.
But I bought it in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Wow, I'm glad I have this can. Well, we've been on a long time, but it's no big deal because it's not like a lot of people are going to watch this. We're just doing this mainly for the fun of it. Well, we're doing it actually only for the fun of it, really, to be honest. So there's no other purpose in it. Now, so it's been a really fun 19 years for me. I can only speak for myself. It's been a very exciting 19 years. When I go in a store and I see something like this Colt 45, like I did in '96, it was so exciting. I remember going in that grocery store in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I saw this beer on the shelf, and I just gasped. I was like, and I bought it. You know what's weird about this beer? This is really going to strike you as...
You must have drank a lot of it because nobody can see you right now.
What happened? I bugged out?
Yeah.
It happens. It says fine quality brewing since 1858. Well, we know Colt 45 hasn't been around since 1858, but G. Heilemann Brewing has been around. All right. Well, I can still see my face, but you know how these things start to lag and start to break down. But next week we're looking at an exciting. I don't know how exciting it is. It did win a gold medal, though. It won a gold medal.
It tastes like a gold medal.
I'll tell you what, my personal preference, that's the best Budweiser on the market today.
Budweiser Select?
Budweiser Select. Eric, you know what?
Never had it.
Big D friend on Facebook, buddy.
Yeah, because, John, if you disagree with a person about beer, you pretty much have to unfriend, and block them. That's
why I drink root beer.
Yeah!
Well, we're looking at...
Hey, I'll tell you what, that shit right there has freaking distroed everywhere, and everybody's going crazy about that.
Oh, that Dad's root beer?
Yeah. I was going to bring you one, but you didn't say you liked really fruity stuff like that, so I didn't bring you one, Jay.
Oh, that's okay.
So good.
I love the fact that Brandon's drinking that Schlitz because I got that Schlitz original malt liquor, and we're going to work on a special project there, I believe. I got my 18-ounce bottle, but next week we're looking at Budweiser Select, and I think we all know that that's a beer that could disappear before the video.
It may disappear before we get started tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an
Stop early.
We're not talking about Budweiser Select 55. That's an atrocity.
Right.
We're talking about the original 2005 edition of Bud Select. Budweiser Select is an extremely interesting beer, I think, and I think John agrees with that.
It's a dying beer. It's what I call the legacy beers.
But it's very interesting.
Let's go down.
Endangered species?
Yep, it's going to be an endangered species.
But it's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, thank you folks for watching this long, drawn-out, but exceptionally enjoyable, exceptionally enjoyable video production.
Thanks, guys.
Drink root beer.
Sláinte.
Yes.